Hickenbottom over at the Animal Hospital of Roxbury, and I'm here today to talk to you about cat spaying and neutering and hopefully get your questions about spaying and neutering answered. So go ahead.
Dr. Hickenbottom, what is the difference between cat spaying and neutering?
Cat spaying is when you are fixing or altering a female cat. You are removing their ovaries and their uterus. That's at least the way that we do it here, so that they can no longer have babies. They also no longer go through heat cycles, so you don't hear the yowling and the different behaviors. They also don't bleed anymore, and it greatly reduces the risk of getting mammary cancer or breast cancer. We frequently talk about getting fixed by 5, so we usually recommend that we get our cats spayed and neutered by 5 months old. Same rule goes for male cats, and that's what we call neutering. And when we neuter a cat, we remove their testicles, again, so that they can no longer make babies. But with the male cats, it can help them to no longer, or decrease the risk of them spraying, marking around the house, being a bit territorial, wandering. It's a big thing with them when they are still intact. So, and of course, decreases the chance of testicular cancer.
At what age should I have my cat spayed or neutered?
Fixed by 5. Spayed, neutered by 5 months.
What are the benefits of spaying my female cat?
So the benefits of spaying your female cat, first off, there is you're not going to be contributing to the pet overpopulation, but in general, it's significantly healthier for your cat to be spayed. Every time that cat goes through a heat cycle, their risk of mammary cancer, breast cancer increases. And breast cancer in cats is typically extremely aggressive. And so, any chance that we get to decrease the risk of them getting it is worth it. So definitely spay and neuter.
And what are the benefits of neutering my male cat?
So when we neuter the male cats, we typically see a decrease in the testosterone-related behaviors like marking and spraying, that god-awful tomcat smell. They typically are also less likely to wander and be aggressive and do risky behaviors like fighting with others, though not always. Some still like to pick a fight.
Are there any risks associated with spaying or neutering?
So there's always risks involved with anesthesia, right? When you spay and neuter, cats are always, asleep for it. It's not something that you can do awake. Typically, we use a couple of different forms of pain control, both opioids and anti-inflammatories, and then local pain control options as well, that like numb areas. But anytime you do anesthesia, there's always that potential risk there. All of our guys are monitored with blood pressures, and they have ECGs hooked up to them, and they're monitored by our technicians like Jackie that keep a really close eye on them, but there is always that risk. And then of course, right, you have the complications after surgery. They're not allowed to lick or chew at their incision site, which can be really difficult with them, so sometimes they have to wear the big cone of shame, but typically cats do really, really well.
What is the typical recovery time after spaying or neutering?
So usually we like them to try and at least somewhat take it easy for about 2 weeks after surgery, particularly for the females, right? Because that surgery is a bit more invasive and goes into their belly, and that includes them, not licking and chewing at their surgery site. Male cats, it's a little bit shorter. We ask that you keep an eye on the surgery site for at least 2 weeks, but they are usually back up to bouncing and active pretty quickly within a couple of days.
How should I prepare my cat for spaying or neutering surgery?
Yeah, so when you schedule that appointment with your veterinarian, so your regular primary vet, they'll go over instructions. Usually it's just fasting, so no food or water the night before surgery, and then they get dropped off in the morning at about 8:30, 8:45, where they hang out with us for the day. Particularly if you have a female cat, if you can, look at the surgical recovery suits and get them used to that suit before surgery, so it's not quite as much of a shock to them after surgery. But this way you might not need an e-collar.
What should I expect during my cat's post-surgery recovery?
So we want to try and keep them as calm as possible. I know that's really difficult, especially with kittens. But we want to try and avoid the really heavy play, like the jumping and the climbing and the rough housing. So sometimes we'll send medications home with that to help kind of keep them calm. But we ask you that you just check on that incision, at least once a day. Make sure there's no redness, discharge, or anything like that.
Can my cat eat or drink before the surgery?
Not from 9 p.m. the night before.
How do I care for my cat's surgical site after spaying or neutering?
Take a peek at that at least once a day. We want you to look for redness, discharge, swelling. Anything like that should be brought to our attention. We recommend either using an e-collar to prevent licking, or even surgical bodysuits. They come in all sorts of fun colors and shapes and patterns. But the big thing with the recovery suits is that we try and get them used to it before they come in for surgery. And then they typically do really well.
Are there any special dietary needs for a cat recovering from surgery?
Not really, just lots of love and attention.
What are common side effects of spaying or neutering in cats?
They don't pee all over the place. They tend not to mark as much. It can help them not wander and go so far from home. That's a side effect. Oh, sometimes they will, when they get a little bit older, sometimes they will get a little bit chunky. That's hard to tell. Is that because they're spayed or neutered, or is that because they just want to be a fat cat and that's their goal in life?
How can spaying or neutering affect my cat's behavior?
We can definitely cut down on the marking behaviors, territorial issues, and these are mainly like male cat things. Female cats, by spaying them, you can decrease those hormone swings, so sometimes it can help decrease the moodiness, which can be helpful, though some cats are just moody to be moody. But overall, mainly with the males, you see less testosterone-related behaviors like marking, fighting, wandering.
Will spaying or neutering change my cat's personality?
Oh, the short answer is shouldn't. They're usually a little sleepy, groggy, maybe a little grouchy for a day or two after surgery, just like I would be, and then they usually go back to normal.
What should I do if I notice complications after my cat's surgery?
Contact your veterinarian.
How can spaying or neutering prevent certain health issues in cats?
Yes, particularly spaying cats can help decrease the risk of developing mammary cancer or breast cancer down the road, and so it's really important to get them spayed or neutered.
How does spaying or neutering impact a cat's weight?
Sometimes cats can get a little bit chunky when they get older. A lot of times we don't know if that's just because they're spayed or neutered, or if that's because their goal in life is to be a fat cat.
Is it safe to spay or neuter a pregnant cat?
So yes, it is something that is commonly done. It is a little bit higher risk than spaying them when they're not pregnant, and you would only spay a pregnant cat. Obviously males don't get pregnant. Oh, please cut that out. But yes, it is slightly a little bit more dangerous, a little bit riskier, right? Because the uterus is bigger and there's a whole big blood supply there. But it's very commonly done, and they typically do fine. Sorry.
What should I discuss with my vet before scheduling spaying or neutering?
So definitely have that discussion with your vet. You should always have a regular veterinarian and a good relationship with your veterinarian, as the kitten grows, to be, seeing them frequently for vaccines and deworming and any issues. And so likely you'll have had this conversation at some point in that relationship. But usually between you and your vet, you'll figure out when to bring them in for spay and neuter, and hopefully it's your regular vet doing it, so then you know who will actually be doing the surgery on your cat.
And how much does spaying or neutering a cat cost?
We do our pricing here by estimates because it goes by weight. So depending on how big they are, depending on how old they are, really changes that price range there.
If you have any questions about cat spaying or neutering, give us a call at 973-691-1771.